from Equine Blooming, and today I have the fabulous opportunity to speak with Miss Anna Blake. Anna, do you want to tell me a little bit about what you do with yourself?
Oh gosh, I do so many things. First and foremost, I introduce myself as a horse advocate because I put horses first.
Yeah.
I'm a blogger, a trainer, a writer, a clinician, an author, a public speaker, and all of these things because a little over 10 years ago, I started a blog. And that led to so many other things. And I think the world is just really hungry right now. And you know, I know you're going to think I'm going to say something about the pandemic because we're in lockdown.
I mean,
But I don't think so. I think that we are at a really revolutionary tipping point in our relationship with horses in a way that I would have never believed. And I started, you know, in the time of dinosaurs riding horses, and the world was very different. And I understand that it can seem to be an angry, backstabbing, horse mutilating experience to be in the horse world. But you know, every place I go and everything I see now is just the total antithesis of that. And I really believe that we are on the cutting edge of something really special.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love everything about that, and it's, I really feel myself resonating with what you're saying. What kind of prompted you, I mean, to start the blog? Were you already a horse professional and you were like, I want to write about this, or were you kind of searching for a way to bring that into your life?
Well, ironically, you know, now I do this weird thing. I give clinics, but I also give writing workshops.
That's
And
awesome.
what I want to say is that writing and riding are so similar, it's alarming. So if this sounds just like one or the other, know that I can't separate them in my mind, and that's probably why.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was a professional trainer, and I had a story that I wanted to tell, and I didn't think I was a good enough writer. And so I started blogging, giving myself writing tasks.
Yeah.
So now it starts to sound like training horses. I want to train this, I want to train this.
Right.
And I would give myself an assignment this week, describe something hard to describe, or this week, write about something poignant, or this week be intentionally funny. Because Katie, let me just ask you this. You're scrolling through Facebook.
Right.
You see something written. How much of it do you read?
Not much.
It had better, I mean, no kidding.
It's really got to grab me, or it's got to be somebody that I'm like, oh, I love this person's stuff. I'm going to, read.
Exactly. So as a trainer, I'm reading all of the, reports that are coming out of vet colleges. And I'm like, I can't even pretend to stay awake while I'm reading the first paragraph. And so, yeah, and I can't tell you why I thought that I had something to say, but it just felt like that to me. It isn't that I was born to it, or, I mean, I have no excuse other than the fact I had a story I wanted to tell. I thought I would write that memoir, and that would be, that would be the thing.
That would be it. Check, done.
Yeah, check, done. I have written a book, and that's it. And all of a sudden, I started to get calls for clinics. And I'd always given clinics, don't get me wrong. It's just that I only gave like 1 or 2 a year.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I got invited to New Zealand. I got invited to England, and I got invited to places where I just had this incredible opportunity. And I mean, no kidding, wow.
Yeah.
I say wow. Because, most of the time, I think most of us, if we're lucky, we have a circle of maybe 20 horses we work with.
It's-
Um,
yeah.
you know, if you're a trainer, it's hard to work with a lot more than that. And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful opportunity to learn. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful opportunity to learn. And then once I got invited to travel, then I got to understand horses in other places. And then I'll say my sample group just got really big.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, you know, I did not have a master plan for success.
Hmm.
This is my business plan. Let me tell you my business plan and then see if it sounds at all like how I train horses.
Okay.
I say yes.
I
I
like
go
it.
where I'm invited.
Yeah.
When people ask me, I say yes. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you were super quick to respond to me and like you had no idea. And you're like, yeah,
Yes.
I'm about a call. Why not?
Yes. Well, you know, it works really well with horses. So I decided to try it in my life.
Yeah.
And sure enough, as if by magic, could it be that easy? Well, yes. It could just be that easy. And so, yeah, I mean, um, I want to say I don't feel like, are you, you are much younger than I am, but let me ask you this question. Are you doing right now in your life what you thought you'd be doing at this age?
Oh gosh, no. No. Not even what I thought I'd be doing, you know, maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
Is no, not even kind of.
I guess I thought when I was your age, I guess I thought that I would get to some age where that would no longer be true.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe I'd hit 30 and things would get normal, or maybe 40 and things would be normal.
Yeah.
And now I'm 65 and things are so not normal. Um, I don't know where we got the notion things were going to be normal.
I'm not sure. That's interesting when you asked me that question, because one of the first things I thought of is I'm not doing what I have ever, you know, kind of thought, but something that I've thought about a lot recently is I think like younger me, like 8-year-old Katie would be really excited about what I'm doing right now. And it maybe wasn't what she thought she would be doing, but she'd be like, yeah, that's really cool. And that to me is like, I'm like, okay, maybe it's not what I thought I was doing or was going to do, but it's still like in line with who I am. And that to me is really a cool feeling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the idea that you could see the path. It's there. You
Mm-hmm.
just didn't know you would take it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And yeah, you look at some of the different opportunities you've said yes to, and it's like, man, I didn't think I would ever have had the guts to do that, but I did, and now it's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, some of the things I said yes to, I mean, there was a time in my life right after 9/11
Mm-hmm.
that everything I did came apart.
Yeah.
And my career before this was as an artist.
Oh.
And, you know, nobody was buying any art.
Mm-hmm.
And for a couple of years, I cleaned people's houses because the most creative thing I could do was buy hay for my horses. And you know, it's like I just don't know a path that goes in a clean straight line.
Yeah.
And when you start training a horse, it's never a clean straight line. It's always ups and downs. And you know, I mean, I just think it's the right, on the days that it looks like, oh my God, really, no kidding, it's Christmas Eve and I'm scrubbing out people's toilets.
Uh,
It doesn't mean a thing. It
no.
just doesn't. It doesn't mean you will be, you know, sentenced to cleaning other people's bathrooms the rest of your life. And
Obviously not.
yeah, and I'm just really intrigued with, you know, I feel like this, whenever every horse story is the same plot.
Mm-hmm.
We buy the wrong horse.
Yeah.
Maybe we bought the right horse. We say we bought the right horse because we learned that later. But we bought the wrong horse and things came apart for a while and things came together for a while. And then we had the horse of our lives. And then we got our next horse, which, by the way, was the wrong horse. And the second horse is, of course, the wrong horse because he's alive and the first horse isn't.
Right.
You know, I mean, I just think it's the way we look at things that defines them so strongly.
Yeah.
And I wasn't born thinking optimistically about things, but it's gotten easier and easier as time goes by.
I think thinking optimistically about things is one of those things that's like, it's a continual practice. You have to continually remind yourself to be like, okay, how can I reframe this and then move on? And that's a real skill and a real strength that you have to develop.
Yeah, it's creative. I mean, it is
It is.
as creative as anything can be.
Absolutely.
And there was a while when I thought in terms of like my career, my horses, and my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And I just needed two of them to be okay at any one time.
Right.
And it sounds like juggling, but one of the really dark periods of my life, I made a desperation choice.
Mm-hmm.
That was just the smartest thing I ever did in my life. And it was because all three things weren't working. And it always looks like the worst thing. And the truth is, there is another side of it.
Yeah, and it does lead you somewhere maybe where you were more meant to be. I love that. That's fantastic. So when you look at yourself in horses and everything, like you said, every horse story is the same, and I appreciate that. I'm kind of curious about your horse story. Like, were you one of those little girls that was absolutely obsessed? Oh, sorry, I have the window open. There's someone outside doing yard work.
That's okay. My dogs will start barking soon because it's dinner time. It's fine. That's okay. My dogs will start barking soon because it's dinner time. It's fine.
Yeah. Um, I mean, what drew you into horses in the first place? Like, what was kind of the catalyst for you to come to this point?
I grew up on a farm.
Did you? Okay.
And it was a pretty brutal farm. There are no romantic, it was not that farm.
Yeah.
It was the farm where there were barrels of dead animals and angry people and stuff like that. And we had a horse. I was the youngest, and when my parents needed me out of the way, they would put me on this horse in a pen and leave.
Oh. Okay.
And she was too tall for me to jump down.
Yeah.
And no matter how much I kicked, she would just walk. And I fell in love with her.
Yeah.
Her name was Lady. And the other thing you should know about Lady is that she routinely tried to kill my half brother. Routinely. He came into the house one time and a whole hunk of flesh was torn off his bloody shoulder.
Oh.
And you have to think, what kind of parents
Yeah.
would leave this little girl like this? But as I looked at it as a little girl, I decided that I was simply magical, that I didn't know what a horse whisperer was, but I sure would have thought, I am just magical.
Right.
And what we both know, and I am big for debunking romantic stories about horses.
I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. So she just answered both of us in like. I approached her as a little girl, dare I say it one more time. I just said yes to whatever she said.
Yeah.
He fought with her and she fought with him.
Yeah.
And so I like this, it was such a great start for me. Because it was a place to be. And I think for a lot of little girls, we find solace with horses when we can't find it someplace else. And, for me, it was just so important to me then. I found a way to babysit and afford a horse in high school.
Yeah.
And when I got out of high school, I found a safe place for her because I couldn't bring her with me, and scurried as quickly as I could to some place of financial security where I could, get back again. And I mean, I have to say it though, a bunch of my clients get their first horse at 50 and they wanted to start when I started. It is a dream that for those of us who have it, it just never really dims all that much.
Yeah. I mean, well, they're forgiven. They're cute and fluffy. My neighbor, not so much.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but
How did you start in horses?
yeah, I was not born and raised on a farm. My parents had both grown up in more rural settings, and kind of got away from it in their own lives. You know, they were like, "Oh, I don't want to live like that. Like, I'm not gonna make my kids do all of that." And then my mom says I just came out like obsessed. Ever since I was about 2 years old, it was like the only thing I cared about, the only thing I wanted to talk about. You know, asked for a pony every year for Christmas, the whole 9 yards. And thankfully, I have very supportive parents that were like, all right, I guess we're doing this, and got me into riding lessons at a local stable. And the rest is kind of history. I just kind of worked my way through a couple different barns and trainers and different things like that. I did 4-H and whatnot until I call it my bonus family. I got quasi-adopted by actually she's a former middle school teacher of mine who ran at the time an Andalusian breeding farm. And
Oh
so,
my God.
yeah, a real dream. And so I just spent as much time as I possibly could out at her place, and I still do. It's actually only been it's been in the last month that I adopted my own horse for the first time. So that's all been very exciting, but I've just been really lucky and made some good connections and had people that are willing to, you know, help me out and help me learn as much as I could. I don't know. It's like you said, like just one of those things that like, to me, it's like breathing. I can't imagine not wanting to be near the horses and not wanting to work with them. It's all I've ever really wanted. So yeah, I feel that a lot.
You know, I really feel like it sounds trite to say it, and it's not trite.
Yeah.
We're born that way. You could have fallen in love with puppies.
Yeah.
You could have, you know, whether it takes us, whether it takes us 60 years to get our first horse or
Yeah.
not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've been fortunate, and I give lessons to a couple like local 4-H kids through my barn and stuff, and their parents don't want to pay for like, you know, a full professional, and they pay me. And it's interesting because I can tell the kids that are like doing it because a friend wants them to, or because it sounds cool or whatever, and the kids who are like just in it, they're, you know, obsessed, they've got the bug. And it's fun to see those kids come into the barn.
Well, and you know, I feel like it's our responsibility, and I mean, it's seriously, it's your teacher had someone in her life who stepped up for her.
Yep.
And so she's going to step up for you. And so you have some time for 4-H girls.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I think one of the things that makes horsewomen who they are is, you know, that they're always looking. I'm looking for mentors ahead of me. I'm looking for people I can help behind me.
Yeah.
I just have felt more support in the horse world in that way than so many other places. I just think it's for all of our problems, that is a real sweet spot that we all share.
Yeah, for sure. And my mentor, the teacher who's, I mean, she's like a mom to me. That's what she's always said to me. She's like, you know, because she's done a lot for me in my life. And she's like, someday some little girl's going to show up at your front door, and the only way you can pay me back is if you do the same thing for her. I'm like, all right, yeah. I got it. And it's true. It's an amazing part of the community itself. I mean, I'm here for the horses. I love it for the horses, but the community is pretty
good. Well, it's, you know, it's wonderful. A friend of mine, when she and her sister were little, someone at the boarding facility that they were at, you know, this couple offered to haul them to horse shows.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, yeah.
That's a big offer.
Good, I think so. You know, I just can't imagine doing that as you know, that's a big commitment. And, you know, it changed her life. And I think we all know people like that in our lives. I just really appreciate doing it around animals.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure those spaces exist in other communities, but there's something about that shared bond that really makes it special.
Yeah.
not to totally derail the conversation, because I could talk about this particular topic forever, but I wanted to ask, you called yourself a horse advocate. Do you, I have a couple of questions about that, like what you mean when you say that, but also, do you feel like you've always been a horse advocate, or is that something that you've kind of learned? Like, do you think you were, like, you and Lady, was that you being a horse advocate, the way you resonated with her?
Um, I have to tell you, it's like an act of courage for me to say I'm a horse advocate.
Really?
And I didn't grow up thinking that I was.
Uh-huh.
Um, some of it has to do, I'm a dressage trainer, and I competed. And at a time in my career when I should have gotten a big fancy horse,
Yeah.
I started working with a horse rescue.
Yeah.
And that means a lot of things. Over the years, 64 horses have come through my barn that were rescue horses that I've rehabbed in part or in whole.
Mm-hmm.
Some were euthanized here, some went on to have bigger lives.
Right.
But again, I think most of us were raised to train horses from a standpoint of, I need you to do this. You will stand still. You will canter when I say canter.
Right.
You will stop pawing now. You will, we felt like we could control them. And at some point, and I think it was working with rescues, I started really needing to see it from their side rather than my side.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything about how I trained changed.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I've heard the phrase calming signals, and it resonated with what I was doing with horses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being an advocate means that you see their side instead of your side.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different perception. All of a sudden, everything flies up in the air.